What if I told you that this was actually playable now? Obsidian Flames is the latest set in the Pokemon trading card game, officially releasing this Friday. What comes out on top? What's to be forgotten? Come along as we explore the best decks to come out of Obsidian Flames. First up on the list is Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX. Known for its popularity in the ages of online-only play during COVID, Shadow Rider Calyrex has not really received a good rep in the current standard metagame. Its subpar attack combined with its 3 prize liability makes the entire archetype pretty slow and clunky to play. Put it simply, Shadow Rider Calyrex can't really trade favorably into anything, making its amazing ability unfortunately go to waste. Radiant Eternatus did come around in Crown Zenith to help accelerate that setup, but even this wasn't quite enough to make Shadow Rider valuable. Lunatone is a new card from Obsidian Flames that prevents all effects of stadiums done to your Pokemon if you also have a Solrock in play. Combine Lunatone with Path to the Peak, and we can negate our opponent's rulebox abilities while regaining access to our own, slowing down our opponent while we gain incremental card and board advantage with Shadow Rider Calyrex as turns progress. Here's an example list for this archetype. We have Radiant Eternatus to slam down turn 1 if we're lucky to draw into it, and a solid early game suite of cards with Battle VIP Pass and Fog Crystal. Forest Sealstone also smoothens out our game plan by grabbing any piece to the puzzle that we are missing. Shadow Rider might need a lot more than Path to the Peak to regain its viability, but it's an interesting concept nonetheless and has potential for success. It's been doing pretty well in Japan, winning multiple gym challenges, so we'll have to see how things shape up overseas. Next up, we have Palkia VSTAR with Palafin. Palafin is a 150 HP single prizer that can deal 210 damage for 2 energy, but only if you switch into it that turn. This is super strong on paper because Palafin can outtrade single prize decks such as Lost Box with its high HP and positively trade into multi-prize decks due to its ability to one-shot support Pokemon such as Lumineon V and Squawkabilly EX. Here's an example list for this archetype. Palkia VSTAR allows us to keep the energies flowing on Palafins, as we are going to be losing them pretty quickly against decks that can hit that 150 HP over and over again. Mew is used as support, helping us find setup, helping us find switch cards, and acting as a simple one retreat pivot to power up Palafin's attack. Speaking of pivot, this build runs Cross Switcher due to the insane Guzma-like effect. Switching your own Pokemon and gusting theirs lets you bring up Palafin and bring up a weaker Pokemon of theirs, hitting 210 on something such as that Lumineon V or Squawkabilly. Beach Court is our stadium of choice because with it, we can easily get Mew out of the active without any extra work. I personally think there's a lot of potential for this archetype. You can even put things such as Klefki to use as your pivot to help the Lost Box and Lost Tina matchups. And I'm personally going to be testing this deck a lot, but its viability has yet to be determined as it hasn't really performed that well in Japan yet. Third up on the list, we have Glimmora variants. This one's a bit of a wild card because I think it can really do insanely well or just flop and no one really cares about it. But I think it has a little bit potential, so let's get into it. Glimmora's ability says that your opponent can only have 3 bench Pokemon when Glimmora is in the active position. This effect alone is insanely oppressive against decks that need to build their bench, such as Gardevoir, Mew VMAX, the new Charizard EX, and Chien-Pao. Its attack comes up a little bit short, only doing 140 and poisoning for 2 energy attachments. Good into Arceus and decent damage, but not amazing. There's a couple ways you can go with using Glimmora EX. You can use it as a primary attacker or use it as support. The first list we're going to look at uses it as a primary attacker. This list features Path to the Peak and Lunatone combo that we talked about earlier to bench lock them while shutting off all of their Roblox abilities. It uses Bibarel as a support Pokemon and Rocky Chestplate to boost the lifespan of Glimmora. Urshifu VMAX is also in there as an alternate attacker, as we're able to switch into him from Glimmora, getting both Glimmora's ability and Urshifu's attacks off at the same time. I don't really know how I feel about the Urshifu, as it doesn't really add anything substantial to the deck, but it is an interesting concept. The next variant we'll look at is Daichi's Lost Box build. This list uses Glimmora as a support Pokemon. You can attack with it to help the Arceus matchups, but its primary use case is just to switch in and switch out of it, using Lost Box's large array of switch cards already to quickly bench lock your opponent. 2 switches, and you're essentially emulating Avery without even playing a supporter card, so super powerful. I really like this build, and Daichi's video, which I'll link to in the YouTube description, makes this deck look like an absolute beast against Charizard, so check it out. Both of these builds make me think that Glimmora has pretty real potential, and I'm sure it's only bound to get stronger as more sets release and players experiment with new cards more. Next up, we have Chien-Pao, my favorite deck on the list. Chien-Pao gets access to Pidgeot EX, which lets you search your deck for a card every single turn, reminiscent of the old Pidgeot in EX era. Chien-Pao really only needs one card every turn to function after it gets Excalibur online, whether that be an Irida for another rare candy backs, a superior energy retrieval, or a boss's order. Pidgeot gives Chien-Pao that slight consistency boost against anything that doesn't run Path. Here's an example list of Chien-Pao with Pidgeot. A lot of players are opting to go with the 202 Pidgeot line and the 4 rare candy, because I guess you want the greatest chance to get Pidgeot in your starting hand as possible. Granted, you can't search out Pidgey or Pidgeot off of Irida by itself. As a Chien-Pao enthusiast myself, I'm a little skeptical about the 202 line because of how much space it takes up in the deck. Not having Arceus VSTAR in the build prevents your explosive boss or superior energy retrieval plays that I like so much about Chien-Pao and that I use at NAIC. Perhaps a combination of both is optimal, but I'll have to test more leading up to Pittsburgh to find that out. Finally, we have, you've all been waiting for it, Charizard EX. This is easily the best deck to come out of Obsidian Flames and has appropriately received a ton of hype from the community. Charizard EX's ability lets you attach 3 fire energies from your deck onto your Pokemon when you evolve into it. Cheating energy in Pokemon is always broken, and this is no exception. No matter what the board may look like, if you can get a Charizard EX in play, you can automatically slam for a ton of damage. Speaking of damage, for 2 energy, Charizard EX deals 180 plus 30 for each prize card your opponent has taken. This means that late game you're one-shotting everything in sight, and early game you're still doing some respectable damage, and even one-shotting things early game such as Mew VMAX and Gardevoir EX. The first and I think most common version of the list we'll see initially is straight Charizard EX with NTV. NTV is used as a strong early game attacker and a 4 Seal Stone user. Pidgeot EX is a support Pokemon that helps us get set up and build up multiple Charizards in the back. 4 Iono is something I also want to mention, and you'll see this in a lot of these Charizard decks, because Iono really synergizes with Charizard. You can slam Iono down, make them have less cards, and be one-shotting literally everything they have with Charizard. So super synergistic card. Vitality Band also kind of helps math, getting us to 220 damage when our opponent is at 5 prizes and 280 when our opponent is at 3 prizes. This version is great and incentivizes your opponent to take out that NTV as soon as possible, making them low on prizes and allowing you to use the attack and Iono more effectively. The second list, and what I think is the best Charizard variant, is Charizard paired with Arceus VSTAR. Arceus VSTAR gives us a great early game attacker with Trinity Nova, while providing quick rare candies with its Starbirth ability to get up to Charizard EX fast. It focuses on Gust with 4 copies of Boss's Orders and 2 Lost City, making it have an extremely strong early game against most of the metagame. And of course, its late game is incredibly strong with Charizard EX. Again, I think this is going to be the best Charizard variant by far. You really just can't underestimate Arceus VSTAR to win events. Charizard's fantastic late game with Arceus VSTAR's amazing early game will make this deck a force to be reckoned with at upcoming regional championships. Finally, this is a Lost Box variant of Charizard. I really didn't want to include this in, but so many people are playing it in Japan, I feel like I at least had to mention it. Lost Box is used as a draw engine, but flower selecting and chorus with a stage 2 and rare candy makes me a little sick, so I'm going to pass on this personally. It might see some play though, just because of how powerful Charizard EX is, but I wouldn't count on it being very good. That wraps it up for today's video. Hopefully you have a better idea of what's going to come out of Obsidian Flames. Yes, Charizard EX is that good. But yeah, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all next time.